In honor, hold on, I'm sorry. First topic. There you go, Liam. In honor of the NBA playoffs starting 2 nights ago with the play-in games, I had written down a topic a while ago, and I might have been talking about it on this very pod when I wrote down this topic. And the topic simply says favorite NBA players. And so I've done list to death. I've done, was it supposed to be a list though? No, okay. Greatest producers of all time. That's going to be a top 20. I've done lists before on Wrestlecast. We did our greatest wrestlers of all time. We did our greatest matches of all time. And that was actually an idea that the greatest wrestlers of all time. I'd wanted to do that on Hyphen Nation for the longest time, but sitting down and making the list was super hard. So once we started Wrestlecast, and then Handsome Bane was like, "Hey, we're going to do this greatest wrestlers of all time. You got to make a list." I mean, I had no choice, and I left CM Punk off my original list, and Marcus and Eric will not let me forget it. But that's because he's just come back, and then I was just waiting to be disappointed, as awful as that sounds, and I have not been disappointed. Shout out to my guy CM Punk. I did put you on the list, Punk. You're good. You're in the top 10. But then also I had done the top 20 MCs of all time, and that episode is episode 39, I believe, of Hyphen Nation, so you can go check that out. I wanted to talk about some of my favorite NBA players, and I didn't want it to be a list because there's a whole episode where I sat down and talked about LeBron versus Jordan and why I felt LeBron had finally surpassed Jordan, even though honestly Jordan is my favorite NBA player. Iverson's my second favorite NBA player. I don't even know. I love watching LeBron, but I don't know if he's like one of my favorites. Like, I have all the respect in the world for what he's been able to accomplish. Obviously, I say he's the greatest player of all time, but there's just so many great NBA players that I just want to sit down and spend. This is the perfect venue, the perfect avenue for me to spend some time just talking about how great these players were, past, present, and not future, past and present. So we're going to go to the past for the first one. And I'm going to do these periodically. I'd like to do a few during NBA playoffs and NBA finals. That'd be a nice little consistent segment for y'all. I want to talk about somebody that's near and dear to Handsome Bane's heart, someone who's near and dear to my heart. One of my favorite NBA players of all time is Grant Henry Hill. Grant Hill. Oh, you talk about, and I apologize if that sounded dirty. You talk about a NBA player that was just fun to watch night in and night out. Let me tell you how it all started. Shout out to New Edition. This is where we all started from. And yes, I'm going to talk about heartbreak at some point on here. I've been meaning to do it for the longest time. No, I've been meaning to talk about Home Again, their 1996 album, but I've probably said on here how much I love the Heartbreak album that they did in 1988. I love that album. I can listen to it all day long. I can close my eyes and hear every single song on that album. To take Handsome Bane's analogy that he always uses when he says I can close my eyes and watch that TV show or that movie. Grant Hill. Let's start at the beginning. All caps, and thank God they didn't win a national championship, even though I have all the respect in the world for him now, hated Duke in the early 90s. While I was a young child who decided, I like Michael Jordan, therefore I like the Chicago Bulls, and have only wavered once throughout my 10 years of Bulls fan, and that was for Iverson and the Sixers for a few seasons. I was not the bandwagon jumper that I may seem to be, because I started liking the Bulls around the time they won their first championship. I didn't know they were going to win 5 more. But my dad had it in me that he didn't even drill it into me. My dad was a Raiders fan, so I became a Raiders fan, and it was that simple. Shout out to Derek Carr getting that extension. Hell yeah, Derek Carr, QB1, that's what's up. And when it came to baseball, I've always been, I've kind of been not as consistent. Like, I like the Oakland A's, when I first started getting into baseball, like around 93, because I really liked Ricky Henderson. And I liked them for a while, but then they traded Ricky Henderson, and I forget, maybe it was the Blue Jays trade or something like that. And I started liking this team in 94, right before the strike hit. I really started paying attention to Kenny Lofton, Albert Bell. So I was really following the Indians, and the Indians were having a great year. And then after the strike was over in 95, lo and behold, the Indians go to the World Series and lose. But I was officially an Indians fan, and I was an Indians fan up until they fired Mike Hargrove. And so there was 2 World Series losses in there, but I was an Indians fan. And then I was kind of teamless for a while, and I kind of fell out watching baseball. But then I was just kind of like, you know what? I want to get back into baseball. Let me just start kind of seeing where some of the Indians went. And I was like, oh, Manny Ramirez is in Boston. I'm going to start kind of following Boston. And I kind of picked up on following Boston. It was the year that they won the World Series in 2004. So it kind of coincided with each other that I was following Boston, and they ended up with the improbable comeback against the Yankees, and then ended up going to the World Series. And so I was a Red Sox fan for years and years, and I still am a Red Sox fan. But when Poppy retired, I kind of fell back. So the last championship, even though I probably posted about it on my Instagram or something, Leanne, if you're listening, which I know you are, because this is the Barack Obama approved world's greatest podcast. I didn't really feel like my championship. 2007 feels like me, okay? And Grant Hill, hold on a second. See, what had happened was the Rockies had taken the lead against the Red Sox in the playoffs, and so I broke out my Red Sox hat and started wearing it all the time. And we rallied, and we won that series and went on to win the World Series. So 2007 is definitely I was a big part of, and the one in between the San Francisco one. So what was that, 2013 when they won again, when they were all doing the beard thing. That was my championship team. I can't claim 2004 or the one from a few years ago when they beat the Stros too much. But anyway, Grant Hill, I hate Duke. I did not jump on that bandwagon. I jumped on the UNC bandwagon because that's where Jordan was at. And then when I moved to Morgantown, I started following WVU a little bit closer. Regret that. I don't regret it. I regret the last 7 seasons of us not. I don't know, man. It's just frustrating. But didn't like Duke. Didn't like Christian Laettner. Didn't like Bobby Hurley. Didn't care for any of them. Didn't like Krzyzewski. Didn't like that they won a national championship in 91. Didn't like that they beat the Fab Five in 92. So, F Duke. Christian Laettner gets drafted in 1992. Bobby Hurley gets drafted in 1993. Leaving one man on that Duke team. Okay, not just one man, but there was one player who had been on those original championship teams for Duke, who was going into his senior year at Duke in 1993-94. Okay, and I'm scrolling because I don't want to make sure don't want to mess anything up here. So, this is the same guy who made that amazing pass to Laettner in the regional final against Kentucky, so Laettner could hit that improbable shot that sent Duke into the Final Four. And even though they failed to mention it in here, from what I can tell, he went to the national championship game in 1994. He led Duke. And let me stop looking at the screen. I got focus. Grant Hill took over that team after Hurley was gone and after Laettner was gone. And I hadn't noticed how much he had developed. But by 93, 94, I had SportsCenter, I had Satellite, and all I saw was this amazing player for Duke. Dunking, scoring, putting up numbers, playing defense, a blur up and down the court. And if my memory serves me correctly, they went to the national final in 94, and they lost to Arkansas, I believe. Corliss Williamson in Arkansas, I think. Don't quote me. I don't feel like checking it. But watching the playoff run in the final and the hold on, dang it. I gotta check. Podcasting 101, my bad. 94 NCAA championship. It was okay, yeah, Arkansas won that year. There's the bracket. That's only okay. Who won the dang on championship game? Wikipedia. Okay. Yeah, I was right. Sorry. So they lost to Arkansas in the Final Four. But after watching that NCAA run by Grant Hill and watching how valiantly he tried to carry Duke to the championship, even though he came up 4 points short in '94, I was like, I can't help it, man. I'm in love with a Duke player. And I became a Grant Hill fan. Major Grant Hill fan. So going into the NBA in 94, 95, this is they're going into their second year without Jordan in the league. And Jordan had, of course, taken the torch from Magic and Bird as the standard bearer for the NBA, the biggest star in the NBA. 93, 94, while had a lot of exciting moments for people who were already a fan, and Shaq was playing his second year, and Penny, his rookie year was the year before that. There was a lot of good things to like. There wasn't a real big star anymore in the league like that. Like, even casual fans who may have wanted to tune into the NBA Finals, they slogged through a 7-game series with the Rockets and the Knicks, and it was a physical, brutal series. Yeah, Olajuwon was brilliant and deserved Finals MVP, but I can tell you, even with Shaq around, there was not a lot of kids out there saying, "I'm Shaq on the court." You know, it was always, "I'm Jordan," or it was always, "I want to be Jordan" on the court, unless they had like a local star they like. But even then, I don't see kids saying, "I'm John Stockton," "I'm Karl Malone." Karl Malone's gross. So the NBA had a star problem, and Scottie Pippen had started to come into his own as a star, but then the whole thing happened in Eastern Conference Finals with him not wanting to go out for the last play and everything. And so, and of course, he was never happy with his contract in Chicago, and he never really embraced that limelight as a star. He played great in 93, 94, and he was in the MVP conversation. But other than Shaq, there was no other real big stars I can think of. And having a center as your star attraction in the league is hard when you've had this flashy two-guard who's been dunking all over people since 1984. You know, it's a little difficult. So Grant Hill came in the league, and Jason Kidd came into the league. Jason Kidd came from California, Grant Hill from Duke. Not here to talk about Jason Kidd. Mad respect for him. They were co-MVPs. But Kidd went on that Mavericks team. I just said I want to talk about him. And he instantly highlights. He wasn't getting along with Mashburn and Jimmy Jackson. But he was a highlight reel. He was putting up assists. People were comparing him to Magic and triple doubling. And everybody's like, "Oh man, this Jason Kidd's great." Grant Hill ended up in Detroit. A Detroit team that had just lost Isaiah Thomas in 94, I think, is when he finally called it a career. And Lambeer had retired in 93. Dumars was still around and would be around for a few more seasons. But this is a Pistons team that was seemingly on a decline after their 2 back-to-back championships in the run as the Bad Boys. And they dropped squeaky clean Grant Hill into Detroit. And Detroit just embraced them, man. Like, and a lot of the old guard was gone. Chuck Daly had left in 92, I believe, was his last season there. So Daly was gone. A lot of the Bad Boys roster was gone. So Dumars was the only holdover from that. And they saw what they had in Grant Hill. And I don't remember what pick Grant Hill was. Let's see if I can quickly get back to that to see when he was drafted, professional career, drafted by the Pistons. He was a third pick of the 94 NBA draft. I don't care who went ahead of him. And when Grant Hill was on the court, and now we're going to do the whole encompassing thing. I'm not talking about his rookie year anymore. I'm not talking about when he was a Piston, from the time in 94 when he's a Piston until the time he signed with the Orlando Magic. When Hill was on the court, he was just such a well-rounded basketball player. And you could say LeBron borrowed a lot of his game from Grant Hill, because when he was on the floor, like compared to Jordan, people always be worried about Michael scoring or Michael on defense. So you always had to think about Michael in the back of your mind. No matter what defensive game plan you had, no matter who your man was, you had to know where Jordan was. Grant Hill came into the league with that and had that same attitude. If you gave him some space, he would pop the J in your face, and eventually he would pop the 3 in your face. Of course, they weren't shooting a lot of threes, but he could do it. If you got too close, he was so quick, he would go right by you, and he was not scared. He was not scared to yam it on you. He did not care. He would dunk it on your head. And the cool thing about Grant is, even when it seemed like he wasn't having a great game, like a great scoring game, because he was never a player who would put up all kinds of crazy numbers. He averaged 20 points. I don't want to do stats. He averaged a high number of points, but he was also getting rebounds. He's also getting assists. He was triple-doubling, almost on the level of Jason Kidd, and he wasn't the ball handler. He came into the league and took the idea of what Phil Jackson had done with Scottie Pippen in Chicago and making Scottie kind of the point forward with him bringing up the ball. They took that from Chicago and gave that opportunity to Grant, and Grant flourished. You see Grant Hill come up the floor bringing the ball up, you don't know what to do. This is a 6'7", this is a 6'8" small forward. But he could literally play the 1, play the 2, play the 3, and probably bang around a little bit with a certain size of 4. You see him come up the floor dribbling the ball as the point guard, you don't know what's going to happen. He could cross you up and go to the hoop and get the foul, get the and-1. He could stop and pop if you give him space. He can make a great pass and set up one of his teammates. He was just so deadly coming down the floor with the ball. And so with them handing the offense over to Grant, essentially, Grant, he was just so dangerous. And nobody knew how to stop him. And I don't care what Scottie says. Scottie had trouble with him. Michael had trouble with him when he came back. There was very few. Honestly, I don't think there was any player in the league who could really stop Grant Hill at any given night prior to his ankle injuries. He was just too good at what he did. And the Pistons started winning almost immediately. I will look this up because I feel like it didn't take much time at all before they went to the NBA playoffs here. He was leading the league in all-star voting, like beating Jordan, like in Jordan's first full season back. That's how popular he was. He led the NBA in triple-doubles in 1996. He was selected for the 96 Dream Team, so he was part of Dream Team 3. I just want to see the first time he got into the playoffs here. I don't really see it, but Pistons never made it far in the playoffs. So it was 96. So Grant got there in 94. So they missed the 94, 95, 95, 96. But 96, Grant is going into the playoffs, taking them to the playoffs. And they never were that successful. They would always, they would get in, I'm reading this, but they would lose in the first round in 96, 97, 99. And then they did make the playoffs in 94, 95, and 97, 98. So here's what happened. I'm going to go ahead and read this verbatim because I see it here. 2000 playoffs would be no different. April 15th, 7 days before the start of playoffs, Hill sprained his left ankle in a game against Philadelphia 76ers. He continued to play until the first round playoff series against Miami Heat, in which his injured ankle got worse. Hill was forced to leave halfway through game 2. Eventually, the Heat swept the Pistons 3-0. Hill was selected for the 2000 Olympics but could not play due to an ankle injury. Ankle injury would prove to be a major liability for many years to come. So from 1994 until 2000, Grant went to the playoffs 3 times. Took this Pistons team. He was the only star. Mind you, they did get Stackhouse at one point, but I'm not here to talk about Jerry Stackhouse. Nothing against Jerry Stackhouse. He's from UNC. But Grant Hill gave the league someone fun to watch, just like Jason Kidd again. So all those old NBA commercials that they would splice together and have, and always Jordan would be featured prominently. Grant Hill started becoming that guy. So clips from Grant's rookie season, his second season, where he's going in and dunking on dudes or just making people look stupid. His highlight reel was ridiculous. Number 33 on the Pistons, one of the most popular jerseys I've ever seen, and from that era. There was, when the red jersey came out, people were copping that. People weren't so sure about the chest piece, whatever you want to call it. I like those, and I really like the red ones, and I'd honestly like to find a red Pistons Grant Hill throwback because I just love those. He was the most popular guy in the league, and the coolest thing about it, especially for me as a kid, was he was just so chill, man. He was always smiling, and of course he had his dad, Calvin Hill, I think. Let's see if I can find it in personal life real quick. Did he play basketball? Yeah, we know he played basketball. Professional career. When did Grant retire? Grant retired in 2013. Personal life. He was, Calvin Hill, a former wide receiver for the Dallas Cowboys. So Calvin Hill had been grooming his son once he took this path of being an athlete and he saw the potential. He's been grooming his son how to deal with these things like his entire life. And when he came into the spotlight at Duke and in the NBA, he had $1 million smile, man, just like Jordan did. And we know Jordan was an asshole, but Grant wasn't an asshole. That's two. My bad. Grant was just so cool about everything. And he was always smiling and laughing. And even when the team wasn't doing well and stuff, he never threw any teammates under the bus. He always played as hard as possible. He played hurt on that ankle. And some would say that's the reason why it never healed properly. Because if he had sat out and didn't try to play on it, his career may have been different. He might have went to Orlando in 2000 and got with McGrady, and they would have been the force that we all thought they were going to be. But it just didn't pan out. And then his career almost ended. Hell, I want to say his injury was so bad that it was, I don't know if his injury was so bad where it was life-threatening, but it was crazy. Split around the ankle. See, all right, right here. March 2003, Hill underwent a major surgical procedure, which doctors refractured his ankle, realigned it with the leg bone. 5 days after surgery, Hill developed a 104.5 fever and convulsions, rushed to the hospital. Doctors removed the splint around his ankle, discovered that Hill had contracted potentially fatal he contracted MRSA infection, a fatal MRSA infection. He was hospitalized for a week and had to take intravenous antibiotics for 6 months. He almost died for that damn ankle. And that was in 2004. That was in 2000. Where'd it go? 2003. So 3 years after he injured the ankle, he almost died from it. And then he came back and he played until 2013, and he contributed on some pretty decent Suns teams from 2017 to from 2007 to 2012. And he ended up retiring from the NBA in 2013. I wonder if the Pistons did a one-day contract for him. Is Grant Hill's jersey retired? Let's see what it says. Is Grant Hill's jersey retired? Dang, come on, Pistons. Come on, Pistons. I know he never won y'all championship. But Pistons Grant Hill was a problem. Pistons Grant Hill, just like that Heartbreak album, I could watch him play any game in his Pistons career, start to finish, 1,000 times. I remember I was watching, they used, I'm sure they still do, but it was back when I was younger. It was like the NBA was on TNT on Tuesdays. On Wednesdays, it was TBS, and Thursday, it was TNT. So I'm thinking it was a Wednesday or a Thursday. And I turned on a regular season game with the Pistons. It started around 8. I turned it on. And I was like, oh, man, it's just a run-of-the-mill game. I'll see what Grant does. And I could not take my eyes off Grant, man. He was just such fun to watch. He could score at will. He could make amazing plays with the ball. He was in there banging for rebounds. And I didn't even get to the defense. He was just as dope on defense. Here's another question. Let's see if it can answer this. How many steals did Grant Hill average? Yeah, I know. Okay. He averaged, now a lot of that stuff, he averaged 1.2 steals for his career. Of course, he wasn't the same player that he was in Detroit. But I encourage you to go to Basketball Reference and see exactly how many steals Grant Hill was averaging before the injury. Because it's pretty, he was always everywhere in the corner. He was blocking shots. He's in there banging with people. He was doing it all. And I loved him for that. All right. I mean, still, so 1.8 his rookie year, 1.3, 1.8, 1.8, 1.8, 1.6, 1.4. So he was averaging damn near 2 steals a game, which is pretty damn good. He averaged 5 assists, 6.9 assists, 7.3, 6.8, 6 assists, 5.2 assists. Rebounds 6.4, 9.8, 9 rebounds, 7.7, 7.1, 6.6, and the points per game, just for the record, 19.9, 20.2, 21.4, 21.1, 21.1, and 25.8 in his last year with Detroit. And over that time span, let's see, he missed 12 games his rookie year, 2 games, 1 game. He was hurt a lot. Oh, no, that was a lockout. He played the full season during the lockout, and then he missed 8 games in the 2000 year. So missing less than 25 games over the course of those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 seasons with Detroit, he put it all on the line for that franchise, man. He tried his very best, and Detroit tried their best to surround him. Retire Grant Hill's jersey. He deserves it. Grant Hill, I know you're listening to this. I love you. I love your career. You're one of the greats. You're a big influence on me, being as in love with basketball as I was. And you gave a young kid someone dope to watch after Jordan left and before Jordan came back. And then also, even with Jordan in the league, you would go right up to MJ, yo. You did not care. There were so many games that you and Jordan were going back and forth, and Jordan had no answers for you. And Mike would get you too, obviously, but Dumars is normally on him. But when you had Mike, I mean, you had your moments with him. You didn't have an AI crossover level, but you still had your moments. You're a badass, Grant Hill. Much respect to you, sir. That's what I'm trying to say. Woo!